Motorhead Garage, the program that each week introduces you to and shows you how to install the latest in exciting and innovative products for your vehicle. Now here's your host, Dave Dobson.
Thanks for joining us here at Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonFireTools.com. If you love classic cars like this, if you've got one, maybe you're building a new one. A lot of folks, of course, naturally do an LS swap. They drop a new modern engine in an old vehicle like that. Or maybe they just want to go to fuel injection on the old motor they have. Josh, why do folks, for the folks that may not know, why would folks want to go to fuel injection as opposed to a carburetor?
Compared to a carburetor, you're going to get a lot more consistency when it comes to cold starts. So whether the weather's hot, whether the weather's cold, whether you live in a high altitude location or low altitude, you're going to get a lot more consistency when it comes to going out to your car, turning the key, and the engine turning right over. So reliability, maybe some more control, and just moving away from mechanical to kind of a digital. We live in a digital age, so you get a lot more customizable features and stuff like that when you move to something like modern fuel injection.
So when you move to modern fuel injection, why should someone choose ACE's EFI?
A couple different things, affordability being a pretty large one that people consider when you're already looking at a pretty expensive build. You're wanting to make sure that it's done the right way, but you want to make sure that it's kept within budget, of course. So affordability is a big thing. We want to make sure that people have really quality components and products at an affordable price. We include OEM standard computer chips in all of our products, so we use automotive grade. We use better software, better architecture. We use 32-bit in all of our stuff as opposed to using 16-bit. So newer software, better processors that allow the systems to take the data they're reading and make decisions faster and fill out the fuel tables in a more accurate way.
We'll talk about tuning in a second. Now, when folks are getting an LS motor, they're usually pulling out of some vehicle, some other vehicle, and it may not come with the fuel injection system or with the control system.
Right.
So what are you getting with ACE's EFI that's basically a kit that they can put onto their engine?
Yeah, so if you're looking at doing an LS swap, like you said, that may come out of an engine that's got everything, it's all good to go, or there might be some components that are missing. So we provide several options for people depending on what they need. So you can start with just kind of a base LS kit. If you have all the components that you need, but you need something to control it and you need a new wire harness where all the connections are good and everything, it's all laid out nice and neat, you can go for a base kit that would come with like an ECU, your harness, some of your wideband O2 sensors, some weld-in bungs, a few other accessories just to kind of get you going. But maybe if you need something a little bit more than that, say you need a manifold, fuel injectors, coil, stuff like that, we have our top-end kits that would come with a fabricated welded manifold, comes with your fuel rails, your injectors, either a drive-by cable or a drive-by wire throttle body. Comes in either 500 or 800 horsepower kits, just kind of depending on what folks need. And then it will work with your stock coils, but we also have those available if you need those as well.
This sounds awfully complicated, but you gear it toward the DIY person. What's it like to install this?
So pretty simple setup, like you said, geared towards the DIY automotive enthusiast. You follow the instructions to lay out your wire harness, plug everything up. Then you go into your handheld that we provide with each of our kits. You can see all your sensor readouts, your tach, has a GPS chip built into it if you want to have a speedometer there as well. You go into it, you go to your setup wizard, you answer anywhere from 6 to 12 questions depending on the product. Just some basic preliminary questions that it needs to know in order to start learning. So you would answer things like, what's the cubic inch? How many teeth is on the reluctor wheel? What kind of map sensor are you using? Are you doing drive-by cable? Are you doing drive-by wire? Are you doing a manual transmission? Are you doing like a GM 4-speed, like a 4L60, 4L80? A couple other basic questions. You hit save, you turn it off for like 5 seconds so that way it can save everything. And when you turn it back on, if you're doing drive-by cable, you do one more setting check, and then otherwise, drive-by wire, you're good to go. You turn it on. Once the engine gets up to temperature, it will go into what's called closed loop, where it closes the circuit and it allows it to start learning. So it starts filling out those fuel tables, and then give it anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour of driving, and it will populate all the fuel tables that it needs to, and then it's good to go. You can take it back, you can park it, you can keep driving, and it will save that learn, and every time it comes back on, it'll be there ready to go.
And what if I'm having difficulty with the setup or with the installation? What resources do you have for me?
So the manual that we provide is pretty detailed. It should be everything you need, but if it's not, we have a bunch of FAQ resources online, but you can always give us a call, 423-590-ACES, and any of our technicians, even our customer service staff, are trained to answer a lot of the basic tech troubleshooting questions, but they'll be able to help you guys out and get you going.
That covers the Jackpot LS system for folks that have an LS motor. But for folks that want to keep the engine they have and want to go to fuel injection, what options do you have for them?
So something as simple as a 4150 style TBI system, a throttle body injected system. Something like that makes it easy to take the carburetor off, put it on. It has 4 100-pound-an-hour injectors in it. It still uses our 32-bit architecture, OEM standard automotive grade computer chips, and it also has a remote mounted ECU. So we keep the ECU separate from the throttle body so that way it's not prone to hardware failure that can be caused by heat, vibration, electromagnetic interference, things like that.
Well, if you're looking to convert to fuel injection or you're looking to get the most out of your LS motor, acesefi.com is the place to go. Always bet on Aces. And always bet on Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonFireTools.com to bring you the coolest gear for your car. Lots more coming up next.
Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonFireTools.com, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. CampbellsCustomCare.com, home of the Dawn Detail Spray. And by PaintedAutoBodyParts.com, the leading U.S. auto body parts online store.
Hey there, Motorheads. Thank you for tuning in. Now, this is a rod end. You may recognize it. If you have anything that needs to pivot or articulate on any vehicle, you're going to need a rod end. And Bob Douglas is here from Rod End Supply, the place to get rod ends. And Bob, how many different vehicles do you cover with your rod ends?
We cover everything from go-karts, farm equipment, monster trucks, off-road vehicles, circle track, drag, just about anything and everything.
Now, what are some of the most extreme things you've had to make a rod end for?
We did a special rod end for SpaceX, one of their rockets. It's an exotic material, high misalignment. Had a slot cut into threads for a set screw. Didn't use a jam nut or anything of that nature. That was probably one of the most weird, I would say. We also make a rod end that's extremely small and is used by Disney. So when you see the eyes pivot back and forth and the ears wobble and the animatronics.
So let's talk about the materials. What kind of quality are we talking?
We've got economy two-piece type rod ends, which basically is a material that we use. It's a C1045 steel. It uses a 52-100 bearing steel ball that's hard chrome plated. That's the least expensive. They call them economy rod ends. Then we have a precision three-piece rod end, has a ball, has a body, and has a race. And then we have another rod end that we make that's got an injection molded material that we call nylon fiber, and it takes the place of a precision rod end that uses a Teflon liner.
You know, other folks are making rod ends out there. What sets Rod End Supply apart from the other ones?
We've got a very good staff that knows applications, knows materials. We keep a good amount of inventory, and we try to ship within 2 days. Doesn't always happen, but we try.
And you have thousands of items in your catalog, and it's not just rod ends. How far does it go? What other stuff do you make for vehicles?
We make all kinds of different things. We make what we call a 4-bar end. These are used on Jeeps and other off-roading vehicles. These particular parts are used on street rods, street machines. We have them in stainless, chrome, black, oxide. We also make the bungs. If somebody wants to make a connecting tube between each end of the rod end, radius rods sometimes they're called, drag links, this type of thing. We make those in various sizes. We also make the tubes themselves. This is a chromoly tube that's got the ends welded in it. This is a steel tube and it's swedged down on the ends. And this is an aluminum tube. We also make all different types of clevises in different sizes. We also put studs in rod ends. Some are tapered for applications, some are just basically a standard bolt. These are affixed in the rod end so they do not come out. We make adjusters, the male adjusters, male to female adjusters. And you can also screw a female and male rod end together to make an adjuster. We make a lot of specials for specific companies that want parts, and this is a wide variety of those. This particular rod end is made for a company that makes dampening louvers for heating and air conditioning. We also sell a lot of different shock parts that we manufacture for shock companies. We also have cups that are used in the spherical bearings. These are mounted down in, and normally what they do is they can make a suspension component like an A-arm by welding tubes onto this cup. We also make high misalignment spacers to take a standard rod end and make it a high misalignment rod end.
With any car, it's pretty unlikely you won't have the part in stock, but what if I need something specialized like the folks from SpaceX or Disney?
That takes time to do. We're looking at anywhere from 16 to 18 weeks to develop it, time we get it made. We're not a onesie-twosie type shop. There has to be some quantity involved with it for us to make something special.
Well, we've got something a little more standard here behind us. We've got this 33 Plymouth hot rod. It needed some new rod ends. We looked at the bushings on there. They didn't look great, so we decided it was time for new rod ends, and we went to replace those. So the process, of course, we had to remove the old ones. A little tricky getting to some of the bolts there. They're in some tight spots.
Yes, there were.
Yeah, but we managed to get it out, a little teamwork. We got them out there, and then we discovered the bushings in there weren't so great as we suspected.
Most of them were falling apart. They'd already deteriorated to the point that they weren't holding anything. They appear to be rubber. After a while, the rubber hardens up and then it starts breaking up and it comes out. We're replacing them with our 4-bar ends that has the poly bushing in them. And our sleeve that goes inside the poly bushing is a stainless sleeve. And so therefore it doesn't rust and doesn't corrode and adhere itself to the mounting bolt that you put it through.
And how long can we expect something like that to last?
Oh, I would think you ought to be able to get at least 20 years out of them.
Seems like plenty.
Yeah, should be.
And so the process, once we got the old ones out, we had to measure to make sure we had them dialed in right and tighten the jam nut down.
Correct.
Putting it back in, it was just as simple as reversing the process.
Yes.
And these are super easy. The only hard part with us is we had some difficulty accessing the actual bolts and everything.
Yeah, some of the bolts were kind of hidden in places. It took a little bit more ingenuity to be able to get on them.
What's the owner of this vehicle going to notice once he has his new rods?
We're working on the rear end right now, and he's going to probably notice that the car doesn't want to walk, because when the bushings get that loose and sloppy, and one of them, the bushings had deteriorated, that it was really sloppy. And so the rear end has a tendency to want to move around in the chassis, and so it's not wanting the car to run down the road straight. And so he's probably going to notice that more than anything else. And the way the bushings were bad, there had to be some clunking noises going on somewhere.
I'm sure of it. Now we know the cause.
Yes.
If you've got a hot rod like this, if you've got your daily driver, if you've got a tractor or a rocket ship, you need rod ends, and you need to get them at rodendsupply.com. They are the best on the planet. And you can find more Motorhead Garage presented by DragonFireTools.com when we come back, so keep it right here.
Now time for some Motorhead Garage trivia. Alan Breed made a major automotive breakthrough in 1968. His sensor and safety system was the world's first electromechanical airbag system. The Oldsmobile Toronado was the first car made available to the public with an optional passenger airbag. In what year was it first offered? It was 1973. Stay tuned for more Motorhead Garage. Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonFireTools.com, coming to you from the Campbell's Custom Care Studio.
This is Motorhead Garage presented by DragonFireTools.com, and this is a cell phone. Of course, we all have them, and you're a Motorhead, so I know you love to be in your car. So what do you do with your phone when you're in your car? You've got a lot of options, right? You can put it on the magnet on the dash. That's on your vent. It's going to block your vent in the summertime. That's a bad deal. In the wintertime, it's going to fry your phone. And you can put it in your cup holder. You can put it on your lap. But of course, you know you're going to drive it. It's going to fall into the crack there, and you'll never see it again. And half of the states, Scott, in the union don't allow you to hold it in your hand anyway, and that's a bad idea. So what's my solution? What can I do?
So you put it in a cell phone seat. Cell phone seat is the newest device in the market. It is a single piece of plastic that's got a flexible base. All you got to do is flex this and pop it in your cup holder and release it. It's going to lock in there, and then guess what? Now you're legally hands-free. You can just drop your phone in there like that. You can also go horizontal. You got power cord access here, and here's the best part. Cell phone seat does not block your cup holder. You still have room for your drink.
Whoa, that is cool. And it's so simple. Why didn't somebody think of this before?
I don't know. It was exactly the same with me. I was driving in my neighborhood in my truck. I threw my phone in my cup holder like most people do, and it landed in some kind of a goo, you know, from my kid's squeeze pack. And I pulled my phone out, and I was kind of annoyed, and I thought, why isn't there a better solution? And kind of this idea popped in my head, and I went home to look for it. You go home and you look online, and I was like, this has to exist. It didn't exist. I couldn't figure out why. So I decided to draw it out, you know, much to my wife's dismay, as she's looking over my shoulder saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? I was like, I got an idea. I got an idea. So I drew it out. I found actually a designer that could do 3D AutoCAD type designs, and we 3D printed them just to test it out. And I got the first one I remember that was 3D printed, and it was huge. It was like this big. And the guy that was kind of helping me with the designs felt bad. He's like, I messed it up, it's too big. I was like, no, send it, let me see it. I need to know if this works. Sure enough, I put the big one in my cup holder. Even though it was giant, it worked perfectly. So we kept going, and as you can see now, we have the final version. It took about 6 years to actually get this just right. but now we have a universal cell phone mount that fits in about 90% of vehicle cup holders, holds pretty much any phone, phones with cases, any type of phone, phones with accessories, pop sockets, loopies, doopies, sloopies, whatever you got. This one simple device is going to work for most everything.
What are some of the little extras you put a lot of thought into to keep the phone in place there?
Sure, so the first thing we did was we cut out these side slots here, and that's going to allow you to put your phone in there horizontal. Interestingly enough, it also works with tablets in that horizontal slot. We put this in my son's cup holder on his car seat, and he can put his iPad in there for long road trips. We put a flexible tab here that's going to put a little pressure on the phone, so it's going to hold phones in there, you know, phones without cases, smaller phones, it's going to hold those in a little bit tighter. And then it also can flex back when you have bigger cases like this. This is an iPhone 14 Pro with a wallet on it. It's going to be able to flex back and hold those in there as well. Those bigger cases with OtterBox cases, it's going to be able to push that tab back and hold that in as well. We have power cord access here, so obviously people want to be able to charge their phone in the car. And I like the fact that this sits in your cup holder. Your power cord is staying down here to the side. A lot of newer cars have those flexible tabs in their cup holders or those rubber kind of squares. So we cut the slots out here to allow those tabs to go right in there, and they work great. It's so fun to put this in when you have those spring-loaded tabs in here that just click in place like it's meant for it. But that doesn't mean that you need those tabs. It's going to work with cup holders without the tabs or without the rubber things as well. You know, it's going to work in a lot of different cup holder styles as long as they're between about 2.5 to 4 inches in round, which pretty much
Most of them are, right?
Most of them are.
You put so much thought into the design. How much thought did you put into the materials that you're using as well?
We talked about doing, you know, different types of plastics. We talked about doing different types of materials like rubber. We landed on ABS plastic, which is the same thing that Legos are made out of. It's a very non-toxic, safe plastic, right? Because kids play with it. And if you've ever stepped on a Lego in the middle of the night, you know how strong ABS plastic is.
Guilty as charged.
This is a very strong, well-made device. It's going to work in extreme heat. It's going to work in, you know, extreme cold. It's a very universal material.
It's a veteran-owned company. The product is made in America, and this is going to make things a lot safer and more convenient for you when you're behind the wheel. It is called the Cell Phone Seat. You can find it at cellphoneseat.com. And you can find more Motorhead Garage presented by DragonFireTools.com just around the corner. And oh, don't forget, Motorhead of the Week coming up.
Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonFireTools.com. Industrial workbenches with integrated tool storage. And brought to you by AMSOIL, the first in synthetics. Mountaintop USA, the global leader of retractable tonneau covers for the world's pickup trucks. Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radio since 1977. And by Eagle Lights, finely crafted LED lighting solutions.
Now, when you're performing a brake job, it's a good idea to take a good look at your brake pads. They can tell you what's going on with your entire brake system. Welcome to this AMSOIL Tech Tip on reading brake pads. Well, they can tell you a lot, and you can see it right here. Starting on this first one, you got an inner pad wear. Now, your inner pad wear, because of the floating and moving calipers, is probably due to your slides are sticking or it's not moving, and your inner pad's gonna wear out. You got tapered wear here, which is actually caused by usually misinstallation of the pad, and the pad's kind of off-center there on your rotor or your actual caliper itself. That's a problem. Starts to get hot, starts to burn up. You get the actual glazing, crackling, or lifted edges here. And then this one's pretty cool. It's overlapping friction material. Now I'll give you a better look right here on the table. What are they supposed to look like? Here's one right here, which is a brand new pad. It looks good. You got a high coefficient of friction. Your next one, well, this is actually glazed. You can see it's all shiny, and it's also tapered. It's bigger on this side than that side. This one, well, it's pretty obvious. It's all chunked up. And then the cool one right here is that overlapping. Now, what is that? That's because the rotor was actually too small, and you can see it's not even touching it on that surface right there. And what happens is you have that overlapping. Now, no matter if you're replacing the pads or doing anything with your brakes, you have to keep it clean, Len. You know what the #1 cause of brake squeal is?
I'm thinking it's going to be dirt.
Absolutely, dirt or loose pads. Now, you got a product that's going to keep the brakes clean, not only at the end of the job, but during it as well.
Exactly. You want to use brake cleaner to clean that dust out of there, spray everything down real nicely. You want to avoid compressed air. You don't want to put all those contaminants in the environment, but you hit it with the brake clean, it'll bring it all right to the floor. That solvent will help clean all that dirt off there, and you start out with a nice clean brake job.
Yeah, and you think about that, Len. I mean, I just touched these brake pads. I mean, barely touched them. And you guys can see that's all on my hands, not to mention the grease, the dirt from working on the car. That stuff's going to get transferred from the pad to the rotor. There's my coefficient of friction, big old word to saying, hey, it's not going to do the stopping.
Exactly. You want to make sure everything's clean.
Yeah, and you can do that. Check them out on their website, amsoil.com. Brake Clean is there and so many other cool products. It's just a click of the button away.
Our paintedautoparts.com Motorhead of the Week is Rick Swartz. Now, Rick first crawled into a race car when he was just 5 years old. Unfortunately, it wasn't his car. It actually belonged to Tom the Mongoose McEwen, the famous drag racer. And oh, by the way, Mongoose was sitting in it in the staging lanes when Rick got in there. We know Mongoose probably wasn't too pleased, and neither were Rick's parents, but Rick was hooked on motorsports. After working for several race teams as a kid, he eventually went to racing school with dreams of racing in the Indy 500. And after 3 days, he was faster than everyone in a class that included an actual IndyCar driver, too. Rick was fast, and I mean really fast, in lots of cars, including Formula Ford, Formula Mazda, and the Mazda Pro Series, even in Trans Am. But as happens so often, life got in the way back in the 1990s, and Rick's dream of racing at Indy slipped out of his grasp. In recent years, Rick has worked as an instructor for the Brakes Teen Driving School, teaching kids safe driving techniques and likely saving lives. And by the way, he swore he'd never go to the 500 unless he was racing in it. Well, just this May, at 58 years old and facing a cancer called multiple myeloma, Rick decided it was finally time to go to Indy. And he did get to do some hot laps, if only as a ride-along in a two-seater. Thanks, Rick Swartz, for being the paintedautoparts.com Motorhead of the Week. We wish you good health and good luck. Oh, by the way, you too can be Motorhead of the Week. Just send us a note at motorheadgarage.tv and tell us your story. Thanks for being with us here at Motorhead Garage, presented by dragandfiretools.com. Until next week, we will see you. Drive safely.